my name is Tatum Tricarico, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am the L'Arche intern this year. And I am super excited to get to be the MC for this panel on disability and employment. And so we are going to be, I also should give my image description. I am Tatum, a white woman with mid-length brown hair, bangs, and glasses, and I'm wearing a purple shirt and sitting in front of a desk and a wall with a disability pride flag with multicolored zigzags down the middle, and sitting next to my friend Miss T, who will give her a description in a few minutes. And yeah, so that's who I am, and we are super excited that you guys are here. If you didn't hear my announcement originally, you can go ahead and grab some stuff if you want to journal or draw, because we are going to have some time for reflection towards the middle of the event. And then I'll just make a note now to go ahead and keep yourself on mute unless you are one of the panelists that I invite up onto stage. But feel free to have your video on if you would like to be able to see the people around you and like engage with people that way. And yeah, so I am really excited to share with you a bit more about this panel and what we've been doing here. So this event is part of a series of virtual panel events that L'Arche North Carolina has hosted and co-hosted with other L'Arche communities this year. In the past, we've had panel discussions on disability justice, disability and pride, and disability and the Christian faith. You can watch and listen to the recordings of these gatherings on our YouTube channel. And as you know, tonight's disability and topic is disability and employment. Because last month was National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we are structuring this panel around their theme, which is disability as part of the equity equation. Tonight, I'm excited to hear from our panelists to discuss the reality, both positive and negative, of disabled people's experience with employment. First, we're going to have a brief overview of the history of accessibility in the workforce. Then we'll have some space to process what we've heard. And finally, we'll hear stories from a panel of disabled people sharing about their jobs and their careers, as well as an employer who has focused on hiring people with disabilities. As we move into the bulk of our event, I want to introduce to you our first featured speaker, Reverend Lisa Laville McKee. Lisa is an elder in the United Methodist Church. She serves in Extension Ministry as Reality Ministries Coordinator of Residential Life. Lisa holds both a bachelor's and master's degree. Before attending seminary, Lisa was a founding member of 2 Centers for Independent Living and worked at a third. She has worked as an activities director for an extended care facility. After the ADA had been made law, she worked at JAN, the Job Accommodation Network, as a human factors consultant. Lisa identifies as disabled and has lifelong lived experience. She is currently pursuing a doctorate of ministry with a focus on people with disabilities and the church. She is always ready for a laugh and always up for an adventure. She enjoys reading, cross-stitching, and all things Lego. So now Lisa will be jumping in and giving us a brief introduction to disability and employment. We're so grateful that you're here, Lisa. You can go ahead and jump in.
Thanks, Tatum and Laura, for inviting me to be here. And it's so good to see so many new faces and to see so many familiar names and faces sitting at home. When Tatum invited me and when Laura followed up, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do this. And then as I got to thinking about it, I'm like, what do I have? What can I bring to this conversation? And I think as a preacher, I'm always gonna start at the end, which means I'm gonna tell you what I think is most important, and then come back to that. My experience coming on board with the Job Accommodation Network immediately after the ADA was passed, and that was our main bailiwick, is talking to employers and other people who identified as having disabilities. Accommodations in the workplace and in daily life are not really rocket science. They can be inexpensive. Correct, some can be costly, but most of them can be inexpensive. It just takes a while to be attentive to what the individual or individuals need. Like one thing that comes to mind, one of my favorite Jan calls was I can't hear out of this ear on the phone, and we were like, well, have you tried the no, not thought of? People would say are the most diverse minority in the country, every age group, every gender, every business for commerce to include people with disabilities in advertisements as if they were normal. A lot of important things that I think you should know. I'll come back to that.
Hey, Lisa.
As I was preparing.
Hey, Lisa, I don't want to, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your video is skipping. So I don't know if it would be helpful if you turned off your video, if that would help the sound come through. Your whole internet, I think, is cutting out. But we wish we could see you. But hopefully that will
really expensive during. So let's see if that works.
Yeah, that's working a lot better already.
Yeah. Great. So thank you. Suggestion. As I was dinosaur in this work, I would, to refresh my memory, I went to the Temple University website because I've been out of the official disability movement for 20 years working in the church and recovering some of that during the past 10 years and then coming to work at Reality. So as I was looking at this timeline and realizing the people that I work with daily are college students, one of my coworkers did not know who John Denver was. And if anybody on this call does not know who John Denver is, just don't bother contacting me. Very often when I'm in the friendship houses, they'll say something like, oh, Andrew Griffith is on. And I'll say, well, I watched that in black and white on TV when there were only 3 channels. And I kind of felt the same way as I looked over this disability timeline presented by the Temple University Institute on Disability, who are a part of the University Centers for Excellence in Development on Disability. they're part of that network. But I just want to give you a few highlights, and at times I'm gonna intersperse what age I was, not to embarrass myself, but to bring vignettes as to where I was in my life. In 1932, FDR was the first disabled president elected. He was a 4-term president, and he could not have been elected today. In 1935, the Social Security Act becomes law. In 1939, the World War II began, and Nazi Germany began euthanasia. From 1939 to 1941, they euthanized up to 250,000 disabled people, claiming that our lives were life unworthy of life. And I'm going to move forward a little bit, a little more quickly. In 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, which is relatively well known as a civil rights out on education of people with intellectual disabilities. In 1962, when Ed Roberts became, oh, this is painful, Tatum. When Ed Roberts became famous for fighting UC Berkeley, I was 1 year. In 1964, Civil Rights Act passes. People with disabilities are left out. 1975, the Education of All Handicapped Children Act, which would later become the IDEA Act, became law. During that time, I insisted on, I was 14, I insisted on sitting in on my high school PE class, regardless of whether they were going to provide anything for me. 1988, Deaf People Now was the first. I was 27. And we had cable by that time. That's the first big protest I remember. 1990, the Capitol Crawl and the ADA, I was 29. 1999, I was 38. The Olmstead Act recognized people with disabilities' right to live in their communities. 2008, and I lived this one up, not because you all would know, but of young people in West Virginia, which is the state that I just moved from. And I didn't know this, and I don't remember this. It became law in West Virginia to teach disability history in our public school. I went online and looked for the curriculum. It was not present. That's probably why I don't remember it. In 2017, ADAPT protested to support the Affordable Care Act and Medicare, Medicaid. All these things are related, and there's a bunch more on this timeline. You can go look at it. All these things are related. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the right to live in your community, the right to be seen, the right to have education, the right to be supported in whatever way you need to be successfully employed. They're all interrelated and all influence employability, because if you're not living in community, you're not experiencing love, support, self-esteem, you're not gaining social skill, you're not knowing what's available to you, you're not having a voice, the right the Medicare and Medicaid issue is huge for people with disabilities, and managing that is an employment is an issue. And how we address that on future elections and in the current election is going to be critical. I was thinking about my own experience of education and employment. In my era as a dinosaur, asking for accommodation wasn't a thing. I want to say thank you to people like Judy Human and Robert, who, before I was born, were doing this work. But as I was recalling my own history of accommodation, in first grade, my dad put up my first grab bar ever, and continued to do that through my high school and most of my college career. I don't want to out any of my employers, but employers aren't really good at hearing about accommodations, and I have not really found a good way to ask. So maybe that's something that we can talk about together. I've often, sadly, even in the 2020s, I found myself accommodating people around me still. And maybe that's part of my learning curve. So I have lots more information, but I'm gonna end my talk there. But I'm happy to connect with each of you later if you want more information about the timeline on my story, or I'm still kind of an expert in accommodation, partly through my professional experience and my personal experience. All it takes is a little imagination. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Lisa. I love that you ended with all that takes is a little imagination too, because yeah, that you can hear just in that timeline, I don't know, all of the heaviness and the weight, but then also the fact that it that we need that imagination there, and hopefully spaces like this can be ones that we find that in.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for jumping in with that. That was really helpful. And I think actually we're gonna move into a time of we're gonna move into a time of reflection right now, actually. And so I think that leaves us kind of on a good place. I'm gonna read out 2 quotes, and then we'll put them on the screen. And that should lead us into like a little song that we'll listen to, and then you can journal or walk around or read the quotes over and over, listen to the music, play with a fidget toy, whatever is the thing that you want to do right now to process this. And so our quotes that we have for you say, we all have, this one is from Mr. Rogers, and it says, we all have different gifts. So we all have different ways of saying to the world who we are. The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self. And then the second quote is from Kurt Vonnegut, The Sirens of the Titan. And it says, the worst thing that could possibly happen to anyone would be to not be used for anything by anybody. And so we're going to just leave you with those quotes and play some songs. And then we will move into the bulk of our panel with our three awesome panelists.
Can I say one more thing, Tatum?
Sure, go for it.
One more thing. The most critical thing that I think employers do not do is a lot of people don't do with people with disabilities, is start with the idea of competence, the recognition of competence, recognition of capacity, the idea of what's possible. And they start they already start in a negative space, so there's nowhere for them to go.
That's so real. Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I think, yeah, that perfect segue into, presume competence. And yeah, as we listen to this, feel free to journal about that, journal about any of the other things that you've heard, draw a picture. And then, thank you. And then we'll, after this song, we'll pop back in and have the rest of the panel. Okay, thank you all for taking that moment of reflection with us. We love integrating that into our time together, just to give everybody some space to like reflect and draw and journal, and sort of like process what they're hearing. But now we are super excited to move into our panel event. We have 3 absolutely amazing panelists. And I will go ahead and introduce our first one. Here we go. One of our panelists is sitting right next to me, and her name is Miss T. Miss T lives in a small community of friends in Durham. What she loves most about living there is that she lives with her friends who have become her family. She is passionate about many things in life, and one of her joys is being kind to others. Another thing she is passionate about is kids. She loves reading to them the most. Some other things she likes are crafts, spicy foods, walking, making friends, and working at Part and Parcel in downtown Durham. Miss T, could you go ahead and share your image description and your pronouns?
My name is Miss T, and I go by she, her. Excuse me. And I am African American. I have blonde hair, and I have a jacket on that says reality. And then I have a Carolina lanyard.
Awesome, thank you. And our second panelist is Maximilian, or Max Wilson. Max grew up in West Virginia. He moved to North Carolina 18 months ago with his parents to be closer to his sister and for better paying jobs and medical care. After graduating high school, Max enrolled in Goodwill's Work Adjustment Training Program. After he completed that, he was hired full-time at Goodwill, where he worked for 10 years. Wanting to try something different when he moved to North Carolina, he began working at Lowe's 7 months ago as a front-end loader, helping customers load and unload their merchandise in their vehicles. He has always enjoyed watching and participating in live local theater. He has sung, danced, acted, and also worked tech behind the scenes for numerous theater productions growing up. Max, would you go ahead and jump in and give us your image description and pronouns? Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Hello. Yes, my name is Maximilian Wilson. I am 32 years old. I have a buzz cut hair and a goatee, mustache, beard. And I am technically sitting on the floor in a, let's call it a lounge chair, with a gray wall background and a flat screen TV behind me, depending on how shaky my hand is holding up the screen.
Perfect. And your pronouns?
He, him.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excuse me.
And our last panelist is Lindsay Reg, and she is a co-founder and CEO of 321 Coffee, a coffee shop that focuses on inclusive employment of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. She believes in the power of social businesses and building a better tomorrow. And Lindsay, could you go ahead and jump in and give us your image description and pronouns?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Reg, and my pronouns are she, her. I am a young white woman. I've got curly brown hair. I've got some fun gold earrings on, and I'm wearing a white jacket sitting in front of a virtual blue brick background.
Awesome. Thank you. So those are our 3 panelists, and I have prepared them with some questions that they're going to go ahead and answer. But we would love for all of you to go ahead and be thinking of questions for the panelists as they're talking. And Lisa can be included in that too if you have any questions for Lisa, who already spoke. And we will take those questions at the end. So if you want to put them in the chat or keep them in your head until the end and raise your hand and ask them out loud, that would be great. But be thinking of questions that you would want to ask. And so our first question for our panelists is just pretty simple question of where do you work and why do you like working there? And so I think we'll start with Miss T because she's sitting right here. And so Miss T, if you want to jump in with that.
My name is Miss T. Not that I needed to say that, but and then I work at Part and Parcel, and it's a grocery store that sells things in bulk.
Cool. And what do you like about working there?
I work with my coworkers that treats me nice, and now I am involved with doing the meetings with them. And I love tearing jars, weighing jars, matching jar lids.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And Lindsay or Max, whoever wants to jump in next and share where you work, that would be awesome.
Ladies first.
I work at 321 Coffee, which is a coffee shop and roaster, like Tatum said, that focuses on employing people with disabilities. So I'm very lucky to wake up every day and be so excited of what I get to do. I have a fantastic team of people I get to work with. We do a lot of different things. Our team roasts coffee, they make coffee in the shops. We work on sharing about 321 to other organizations. So it's a lot of fun. And I think the best part is just the people that we get to work with.
Awesome. And Max, you want to jump in?
Yeah. I work at Lowe's Home Improvement Store, and I work as a front end loader where I load and unload customers' merchandise into or out of their cars and vehicles. I also clean up the parking lot, getting the trash and items, etc. I also get the carts from the parking lot and the various flat carts or lumber carts or just the general regular merchandise carts that you use. And I put them where they need to go. I like to do different things around the jobs, so it just doesn't become too stagnant and just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Depending on what the job is and what's going on, I like some variety within the job, but there's always something to do, and I always like to spice things up and do things a little bit differently sometimes. But I like meeting different people and talking to different personalities and just different viewpoints.
Awesome. Thank you guys for filling us in on that. And yeah, just super stoked for all of you to be here again. I think it's just a really great, group of experience. And I know that this is going to be recorded and sent to a couple high schools and different places like that for high school youth to get to, see themselves as people who are going to be employable in the future. And so I'm really, really excited for them to hear about all of your experiences.
No pressure.
Yeah. And so our second question for tonight, and again, not everybody has to be answering all of the questions, but our second question is, what things did you do to prepare to work in this environment?
I'll say that I had no prior experience in coffee when getting into the coffee space, as did a lot of people on my team. So we've got a lot of people that don't have experience drinking coffee, making coffee. So the biggest thing that we do is ask questions and practice. So we're proud to have a really great training program where everyone is in a safe space to just learn and try again. And we all benefit from that. And I think that that's helped build a lot of our team's confidence. I know it's built mine in just being able to, do something on your own time without having a customer in front of you when you might feel some more pressure.
Well, my thing is, she is so muted. My thing is when I found out about Part and Parcel, I walked down there to talk to
Friday
T.
night, Ruth.
Okay, so when I found out about Part and Parcel, it was walking distance from where I stayed, and I walked down there to talk to T, and then I got the job right then and there.
Nice.
So I didn't have to have an interview or anything.
Yeah.
Nah.
Cool. Max, do you have anything that you'd like to share for that question?
I didn't prepare that question, sorry.
No, that's all good. Cool. Then we will move on to one of my favorite questions for this event is what has been one of your favorite memories of inclusion in the workplace? A time that you were included or like an event that you were included in.
Well, now I like being included in the staff meeting at my work. That makes me happy to be included.
Oh. Yeah. And like what kind of things do you do there, or that do they like have you do?
Nothing, they just invite me in the meeting and we talk about things.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, getting to like be part of that like staff meeting is always really helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
There go everybody get from you.
I'm actually going to use a different example than what I actually had written down originally, because
Go for it.
when I worked at Goodwill, one of the things that we did, well, one of the things that we would have to do, I would have to go out with the different truck drivers and we would have to get these big, huge metal recycling containers that are out in the public, and you know, that the public can drop off cardboard or paper or whatever items that they would need, I mean, that are donatable. And we would have to go to these different locations and pick them up. And, you know, and you have to work the back of the truck to get the big, huge metal white bin onto the back of the truck. And so I would help either direct traffic or I would help try to get the bin onto the back of the truck. And so just being selected for that, knowing that they can trust me and depend on me to represent Goodwill outside of the workplace. I mean, even if it wasn't to get the white bins, whether it was to pick up donations from somebody's business or home, or, you know, to drop off, you know, items at a business or a home, I liked that they could rely on me to represent Goodwill well, and to know that you know, that I was trustworthy and dependable.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really love that story. Yeah, and I would also love to hear about any of the challenges that people have experienced in the workplace. And if you've had those challenges, yeah, what have you done to address them?
Well, I had a job where well, I never had a job, but I was told that people wouldn't hire me because of my disability.
Yeah.
And I thought that was not nice.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. And what were you like, what did you do to like combat that? Like to like
I
disagree with it?
I just let it go and go find something else.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I have
That's
definitely.
illegal though. I don't see why that's illegal. They can't do that.
Yeah, I've definitely heard it from people before though. So it is sadly a thing, but you're right. It is and should be illegal. Yeah, but it does sadly end up the case.
We see some of our team struggle with various tasks from a like physical standpoint on that, like, you know, in coffee, for example, when you make a latte, you dispense coffee into a little holder and you've got to compact it. And typically that involves like hand pressing about like 30 pounds of pressure onto it to flatten it out. And we've seen, as an example, people who don't have the physical strength to do that and do that reliably can really struggle. So a big thing that we try and work with our team on is like what other resources exist that we can leverage to make that task more accessible to everyone. So like in this example, we were really excited to find a system that has a lever. So you pull the lever and it pushes something down, and by adding that lever, physics, it makes it much easier and you aren't actually having to apply 30 pounds of pressure. You can pretty easily pull a lever and it does that. So I think it's, we recognize that, yes, there are going to be different challenges that exist with different tasks and people with different skill sets and abilities and disabilities that are going to make change that. But I think the biggest way that we as a team approach overcoming that is just being open and about what's working and what's not working and what can we try to get through that, because I think we've all seen that people are capable of amazing things. Sometimes you just need to be a little creative.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I actually technically introduced this in the initial part of it, but I am functionally blind, which is part of why I have my disability pride flag in the background. But I have definitely noticed that in workplaces, in school, in most of my life, the ways that yeah, those little things like adding a lever or like shifting a very specific thing can make a huge difference and make something doable in ways that like
Totally.
other people don't end up thinking about. And so
Yeah, we were so excited, a scale that is like a talking scale. And so that way people who can't read numbers or are blind, can still measure things. And it was so fun to have a group out that had a couple people who were blind and just being able to see people, who have typical vision and people who are visually impaired or blind, work side by side and doing the same task.
yeah, that's incredible. I love that.
It is incredible.
Yeah, and that's like, yeah, that's amazing. And then the last question that I have for you all before Laura jumps in with some stuff, and then the rest of you can continue to be thinking of your questions. The last question that I have for you is, what do you all wish that employers knew about employing people with disabilities? So obviously that'll come from different perspectives from the two of you as employees versus Lindsay, you as the employer. But what do you wish that other employers knew?
Well, I would love if they treat me kind. I don't want them to treat me like I don't know how to do something when I know I can do it.
That's real. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Max, I think you're on
Yeah, I
mute.
think you're muted. Thank you.
Max, you're muted if you want to repeat what you were saying.
Yeah, you're fine. I totally agree. There, and it's obviously a very gray line, a very fine line between, understanding and explaining and, the communication between employer and employee and, what to do and how to say it, depending on your disability and that kind of thing, and your intelligence, no offense. But for me, it's, I wish that, it's just time and time again, I hear about people who are discriminated against and made fun of and put down because of their disability within the workplace by coworkers and by superior management. And unfortunately, that does happen. And I don't think that it's right. I think that people need to try to understand at least a little bit of what people with disabilities go through and try to see things through their eyes and what it's like and how they can better communicate with that person and be able to understand what tasks they can and cannot do.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so real. I feel like I can speak for a lot of us when we can say we've been there in the workplace, and so I appreciate you naming that.
A big thing from our perspective, I'd share, we get asked a lot, like, I just don't understand how to hire someone with a disability, or I don't understand how to find people with disabilities to hire, even if I wanted to, which is a really strange, like, thing that I don't know what the disconnect is, because I mean, we hire people with and without disabilities. And this is what I tell other employers. We fill out the same paperwork. We list the same type of job posting. Like, we aren't doing any magical, secret paperwork that you don't know about. And for some reason, there's this disconnect that people don't. Yeah, Max, I agree with you. It's ridiculous. And then when it comes to when people think about, like, how do you find people? Um, we are sitting here with a wait list of over 100 people waiting for jobs, and pretty much most other restaurants, coffee shops, like places in the food and beverage industry, are struggling with saying no labor shortage, reduced hours, no one to work. And I think it shows that there are people out there who are willing to work and want to work and want to learn, but they unfortunately aren't being considered. And I think that that's such a problem. And I think part of that is applying for jobs is not easy, and it's putting yourself out on a line. And if you don't feel like you have a place there, you're not going to feel empowered and encouraged to try, because that's scary and it's hard. And I think that comes from, if you're on the website and you don't see anyone that looks like you, and if you look at what these companies are doing and who they're partnering with and how they're engaging in the community, and it's nothing that, there's no shared value there, it's not going to look like a place for you. I was looking at to apply for a job, and, it was all a bunch of old people, or, whatever it is. I won't feel like I have a place there. And so I think it's really big for companies, if they're looking to attract diverse talent, they need to demonstrate that they are committed to that in a number of ways, right? So that's the people in their stock photos on the website. It's companies that they're partnering with. It's organizations that they're supporting at the holidays. It's, if you're going to be committed to the community, how is your team going out and being a part of the community? Are you all volunteering together? Are you being a part of community-based initiatives? There's just so many things that you can do to really walk the walk. I think we've got to put the pressure on the employers to go out and do that.
Yes, thank you. That is huge. Yeah, and to hear what you said about there being a wait list of over 100 people, and knowing that, yeah, everywhere is talking about labor shortages. There's a huge disconnect there. And yeah, the work that hopefully we're doing here and that we can do in other spaces will hopefully combat that. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, Tatum, but I think a part of the problem is that even someone who is, for lack of a better term, neurotypical, um, they're just as scared about not getting a job as you and me are, I mean, because, and I think it's just, there's a stigma that, that you're not going to be good enough, that you have to be intelligent, you have to be good looking or smart, or, you have to have all these degrees or all these, awards or whatever, or all these capabilities or all these talents. And, but if you don't, then you're not going to get the job. And I just don't think that that's right, because if you are going to be so picky and so just cherry picking, your employees, then nobody's going to want to go for your business. Nobody's going to want.
Oh, you
I
muted
think you-
yourself.
Sorry. nobody's going to want to apply for your business or your job. And I think employers need to just try to be like, okay, this person may not be exactly what we're looking for, but he or she may surprise us. I mean, whether or not it's something that they see in their application or whether or not it's something that they say in their interview. I mean, sorry.
No, that's so real. Thank you for sharing. That's real. It's really helpful. And now I think Laura is going to jump in with a question or two, and then we'll open it up to the audience.
Hi, y'all. I'm Laura. I'm the executive director of L'Arche, North Carolina. I am a white female and have auburn hair and a ponytail with some swooped over bangs, wearing a denim shirt. And I have a shelf behind me with picture frames and other things. Thank you all so much for sharing about your experience, your wisdom. You are amazing. Thank you. My question, so Tatum said that some high school students are going to be watching this recording later. And my question for you is, what would you tell your younger self today if you had that opportunity? And just knowing who you are now and the awesome jobs you have and the communities that you're surrounded with, what would you tell your younger self? Open to any of y'all.
I would tell my younger self that I could do it, and without people telling me I can't do it.
I think I would probably say it's going to be hard. It's going to be awkward. You are not going to know what you're doing, but it's going to be, it's going to work out. I mean, with any new job, there's going to be hurdles. There's going to be confusion. There's going to be awkwardness. There's going to be weirdness. There's going to be just an air of what the heck is going on, or what the heck is this, or what the heck am I doing? But after a while, hopefully you get into a rhythm and you learn what the job is and what the people are and how to act, and what to say, or what the duties are, or the responsibilities, or the functions of the job. Then hopefully, as the days, weeks, months, and hopefully years go by, you're able to do that job better and hopefully work up the ladder later on.
Yeah, I think a big one is just to try whatever ideas you have, whatever things might be of interest, give it a shot. And if it doesn't turn into a 40-year career, that's okay. Then nothing wrong with that, right? Try again, try something, realize you don't like it. That's great too. That means you don't have to waste any more time doing that. Move on to something that you do like. I think there's so many things out there, whether it's, sports and recreation, whether it's jobs and professions and ways to contribute in a company, that go find something that you love and that you feel so proud and happy to be a part of. And that might not be the first thing that you try. And so that's why it's important to just keep trying and experimenting until you find that thing that you really do love.
Y'all had such great answers. That's awesome. Last question I have before we open it to the audience is on our advertisement for this, we had a little thing, a picture of a calendar, and it had circled payday. And so my question, just a fun question for you. What's your favorite thing to do on payday, or what do you look forward to for payday? Like I always think like, oh, okay, what's my next little, like I like to run. So I like what's my next running gear I might get. So what's your favorite thing to look forward to about payday?
My favorite thing about payday is how pretty much all of our staff will remind me the whole week leading up to payday that payday is coming. And I just love the joy and excitement and the pride that they all have in payday hitting. And everyone loves to get paid. Everyone deserves to get paid. And so let's all celebrate because Friday is payday.
Mm. I love when I get paid because I have a sneaker gang of shoes. I love shoes. So every time I get paid, I want to get new shoes.
They better be purple.
Yes.
I do a lot of different things, but one of the things I like to do is I really like to buy things off of Wish, you know, the buying app. I like to buy a lot of just random items or things that I think that I like, or things that I think that I would want, or things that I think that I will need. I mean, you know, it's wintertime, so I think I might look for a new hat or a scarf, or, you know, or just some, you know, a little portable heater or something like that. You know, just something kind of creative, you know, just some, you know, something fun to do, or, you know, or just like a fun little, you know, fidget toy or new game or something. Or I'll try to look for, you know, events that are happening around. You know, I really like to go watch community theater and watch plays. And, you know, so I'll look for upcoming shows that are, you know, going to be playing in the coming months or weeks or whatever. And I'll try to, you know, see if one of them lands on a weekend, you know, that I can go. And so, you know, I'll go out and I'll do that. And, you know, and that always brings me a lot of joy. But you're right. And Lindsay, as you know, whether or not you are disabled or not disabled, everybody talks about payday 365 days. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Because we all like to get paid. But I think it hits a bit closer, you know, for the disabled community, because, you know, we feel like so much is taken away from us. So it's nice to actually get something back. And even more so when we've worked for it and earned it. So, yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. We have just a couple minutes left to have people pop in with questions that they have. So if anyone from our audience wants to unmute and ask a question or put a question in the chat, I can read it out loud. Yeah, we would love to hear what all of you were thinking about or what questions you had. For any of our panelists, you can ask one in particular or you can ask them all.
Lay it on us.
Get on us.
I have one. Hi, my name's Kyla, and so is this question for all of you guys, any of you guys. Have you ever been fired from a job just because you couldn't do something?
I was. Yeah. I think unjustly, and it was really difficult, but didn't quite know what to do about that. Yeah, because I had a church job and the church isn't covered by the ADA.
Well, I never been fired, but I have left jobs till I find the one I'm looking for. And now that I found the one I'm looking for, I love it.
That's great.
I would say I never, not that I'm really a panelist, but I've never been fired from a job. But I have been unable to get a lot of jobs because of things that I can't do. Specifically, my disability comes with a pain piece of it. I have it and am in a lot of pain a lot of the time. And so between school and work, it is very hard for me to hold a like normal hour job. And so a lot of jobs that I've been attempted have gotten to a point where it's been too much and I haven't been able to do it with accommodations enough so that I've had to leave or had to not apply in the first place, but never been like forced to leave one or fired from one.
Mm,
And kind of the same thing. I've never been fired personally, but and again, kind of reverts back to what I said earlier. Legally, they're not supposed to fire you if you know, aren't able to do a job because of your disability.
mhm.
Now, granted, if you can't do the job itself, you know, that might be reason for them to fire you. But if you can't do the job because of your disability, that's discrimination.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that, that's my understanding, because I've, like you, I've heard of other people who have had disabilities and been fired, through no fault of their own, from what I remember and just from what I understand. They were just doing what they were supposed to,
Mm.
doing whatever duty or job they were supposed to, but it didn't, it didn't work out, and so they were fired. And most of them don't pursue legal action because they don't want to, have a target on their back, and they don't want to make it worse. Which, by the way, that's for non-disabled and disabled people. People just like people don't like putting themselves out there and taking chances and making themselves a target, because unfortunately, it can get serious. But I think that sometimes legal action does need to be taken, because businesses need to learn that you cannot fire people, because of their disability, just because they cannot do something. There are other things within the job, hopefully, that someone can do other than that specific job. Because the disability is not our fault.
Right.
The disability is not our fault. We don't do this by choice,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys for sharing.
Yeah, we have time for, I think, one more question from the audience if somebody wants to go ahead and jump in. T here said, in what ways do you hope to grow in your current position?
Me or
Um,
anybody?
All of the above, but you can go ahead and answer.
Well, I enjoy what I do, and I love the people I work with because they treat me nice.
Nice. And in what ways are there any like parts of the position that you would want to grow in or like do more of maybe, or
Well, I would
do
love
something?
to work up front and learn how to do the cash register.
So that would terrify me personally.
Fair. Does anyone else have ways that they're hoping to grow in their current position?
I hope that I'm able to maybe learn a little bit about different departments. I mean, I don't know if that's possible within Lowe's, but hopefully learn a little bit about several departments. And so if a customer has a question, they can come to me and I will be able to answer it, you know, to the best of my ability. You know, just be able to educate myself, you know, about whether it's about the ceiling fans or the tiles or the woodworking or whatever. So yeah, so if someone who has a question about a project or, you know, or some home renovations that they're doing, that they can approach me, you know, and I can be able to educate them and be able to give them the knowledge that they need.
Cool. Thank you. And I think we are just about to hit the end of time. If anyone else has a final question, you can throw it in the chat. But if not, I will let you all know that we have a survey link that was just put in the chat that we can, it would be very, very helpful for us if you fill it out after this. So if you could go ahead and take a second to grab that link to the survey and fill it out. It's really quick, but it'll help us figure out what we're going to do in the future with events like this. So we would really appreciate that to hear your thoughts on tonight. And then we also have a couple different opportunities coming up that one of which is we will be going to the art museum in Raleigh on this Sunday from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. And that is free, which is incredible. I asked about that today. And I'm very excited about that. So we will be going to the art museum. And then we have Crafternoons on one Wednesday a month where we create a craft together. Our next craft will be making cards for Thanksgiving on a Thanksgiving type theme. Thank you. And then after that, we have Gifts of Grace, which is a market that several people, including a couple of my roommates, will be selling their art at. And it's on a Sunday morning, but there is time for you to like do whatever you do on a Sunday morning and then come and join us from, I think, 9 to 1, where we will be selling things. And it will be for adults with and without intellectual disabilities. And finally, our Soup for the Soul event will be in Durham at Duke Memorial United Methodist Church. And we will have chicken soup, and I do not remember what day that is on, but we will have chicken soup there, and it says on the screen, and I cannot read it. So be there at some of these events. We would love to see you. And we are super excited for just all of that, and super thankful that you all joined us tonight. So feel free to give us a follow, and thank you again to all of our amazing panelists and speakers. It was just really great to get to hear from all of you. And yeah, I am really thankful for everything you guys shared. So we appreciate you all, and we will see you all a little bit later. Hope to see you at one of our next events.
Thank you so much, Tatum, for leading us in this tonight. And just want to give another shout out to 321 Coffee. They have locations currently in Raleigh, opening up a new location in Durham, and just a really wonderful organization to support, as well as Part and Parcel. Have their founder on the call as well, T Land. And if you haven't been to Part and Parcel in Durham yet, what are you waiting for? Go and visit them. They are a bulk supply, so no packaging and waste. It's really wonderful. I've put their website into the chat early on, but it's Part and Parcel in Durham, 321 Coffee. And we're also just grateful to hear the great work that Lowe's is doing. So thank you to our panelists for sharing, and to our speaker, Reverend Lisa. We just really appreciate you all and all that you do. Thank you all.
So much.